Hi, Tiger Slash just second here, and today I'd like to talk about not Kabalite Warriors, but actually Kabalite Trueborn, the elite's choice for the Kabalite Warriors. Now, talking about the models themselves, the Kabalite Trueborn actually share the Warrior model. They're just an upgrade option for them. And I've heard in the past there were Trueborn models, specifically built by GW. I came in at the tail end of 6th edition into 7th edition, so I haven't seen those. But here we have an array of my Blasterborn, the blaster configuration for the Kabalite Trueborn. And when GW redid the Dark Eldar line, they really did a great job upgrading every single model along the way, in particular the average warriors. The 3rd edition warriors, in my opinion, were some of the most simplistic plastic minis they ever put out, and they replaced them with some of the best detailed and the most posable and customizable in their entire line. The amount of customization options these guys come with is insane, especially if you have Craft World Eldar or Harlequin bits hanging around. You can really do some amazing stuff with it. Also, if you're in the mood for conversions, the Dark Elf sculptor from the Fantasy line was apparently the same person who designed these guys. And the models really go well together. In fact, I use some witch elves for my witches, and I've actually converted some of those for Harlequins as well. They fit right in there. They look great. All of the warrior models look fantastic, and if you felt like doing a different paint scheme or going into a little more detail, like I've done here with the bits on his belt and the horns, to distinguish your Trueborn from your regular troops, then there's plenty of options for you. In most cases, I would say it's lazy to have an elites option share a model with a troop option, but in the case of the Dark Eldar, if they tried to make this look any more special, first of all, you'd probably be paying a tremendous amount of money for the Trueborn models, and second of all, I think they would just look busy because these guys have so much detail on them already. Now, into the actual usage of the Trueborn. One more thing. This sort of ties into their usage as well. The traditional build for a Kabalite Trueborn is to use blasters. The reason for this is by upgrading from a basic warrior to an elite status, you add 3 more points per model, and in terms of stats, in terms of raw stats anyway, you get nowhere close to 3 points worth of upgrade. You get +1 leadership and +1 attack for a model that has a rapid fire weapon as its main armament. So that's really not all that great. You're not going to be using them for that. What you also get is access to special weapons and heavy weapons with no minimum troop size, no minimum unit size to hold you back. The warriors can take, if they have 10 men, they can take 1 heavy weapon and 1 special weapon, and if they have 20, they can take 2 of each. The Kabalites with no minimum requirements can take up to 4 special weapons and 2 heavy weapons, barring, of course, the Scourge-only heavy weapon options, which is half of them. But it used to be the best strategy was to equip your Kabalite Trueborn with 4 blasters and just 1 ordinary dude, and throw them into a venom and deep strike the venom so that your 18-inch range blasters could go to town. The venom could jink to its heart's content. You'd get that nice 4-up cover save for the boat, and the dudes inside would be unaffected by the jink, and they could fire their Strength 8 AP2 lances all day long. This changed with the FAQ, of course, because jinking now makes it so that all the passengers snapfire. This hasn't made this build obsolete, because the venom has a built-in 5-up invul save with its flicker field. However, it's made them a lot. So, the difference between a 5-up and a 4-up when you're actually playing the game, especially on a 2 hull point vehicle, is rather large. And the whole unit combined with the 4 blasters and the venom is a total of 180 points. And 180 points is a lot to bank on just a 5-up invul save. That's really not all that great. Also, when you're discussing the models here, the warrior boxes only come with one of each special weapon. So if you want to equip a unit with 4 blasters, then you're going to need to purchase 4 boxes of warriors just for one Kabalite Blasterborn unit, and that's $120 worth of warriors to field one elite, and then a whole bunch of dudes with splinter rifles. So people like to get creative with how they model their blasters. This one in particular was using a stabilizer jet off of a Reaver that someone just chopped the front off of a splinter rifle and glued that on there. And honestly, I think it works really well. I've done the same things with snipping the tips off of blast pistols, because blast pistols are so overpriced, and putting them on splinter rifles, and that works, of course, really well. Or splinter cannons or shredders, whatever you want. Additionally, you could green stuff some tips on the chopped off splinter rifles. That works too. I've done that with some 3rd edition warriors that were pretty rough shape and I didn't really care about. They're not the ones that I would bring out if I was looking to show off my modeling abilities, but they get the job done. They're obvious what they are. They're just not all that pretty. Regardless of how you decide to model your Blasterborn, or if you decide to take shredders for some reason, just make sure that they all have the same color scheme. Like, as you can see here, this guy's modeled a little differently, but obviously he's still got a blaster. This guy's got the same color scheme, but he's got the real McCoy. As long as it's easy to tell what they are. Now, because of the nerf to jinking, there's got to be other ways to use these guys, because as I said, 180 points banking on a 5-up flicker field save, that's really uncomfortable, especially when you're deep striking with them. They're not going to have a webway portal, so it's already kind of a risky move. You might land outside of the 18 inches that they're effective at. You roll box cars in a direction. Even if you don't mishap, you could be out of range of the blasters, and then you need to survive that turn through jinking to get up where you need to go. And an alternative that I thought of was you bring the minimum squad size is 5, but you can bring 6 guys, 4 with blasters and 2 with dark lances. Normally you wouldn't bring dark lances, because if you move, dark lances are heavy weapons, so you're spending 20 points on something that, if you're in a venom, you're going to be moving a lot, and that dark lance is always going to be snap firing. So why I'm talking about bringing them here is because you would basically bring 4 blasters and 2 dark lances and a Archon with a blaster, a shadow field, and a webway portal. And the purpose of this is, if you put them all in one unit, you've got 7 shots of dark light from the same unit. And if you put the Archon out in front towards the dangerous bits, because you have the webway portal, you can place your unit just about anywhere. So you can line it up so that the unit is only getting shot from one direction. As long as your Archon is out in front, she's going to be the one taking all of the hits. Or he. I have a female Archon model, but then you're getting a 2-up invul save against pretty much all oncoming fire. Additionally, because you have the webway portal, you don't have to worry about the venom mishapping or something like that when it scatters on a deep strike, because you're always going to go exactly where you want to go. For instance, you could deep strike into ruins and leave the Archon sitting at the back. Now this does, unless you have moved through cover, if you have Conqueror of Cities, this is pretty much the best case scenario. If you don't, then you're going to have to take dangerous terrain tests, and with a 5-up armor save, that's not the best thing in the world. But on the other hand, you do get that nice juicy cover save. Or you could just plant them all right at the back of whatever the heck is giving you trouble, right behind a Night Titan or something, and just go to town. The good thing with this strategy is it gets your Dark Light exactly where you want it, and it gives you that nice 2-up invul save of whatever's coming at you from the front, as long as the Archon is the closest model. The downside is this is a tremendous amount of firepower packed into what is otherwise a very squishy unit, so it is going to get primaried like nothing else, especially if you place it in a situation that's dangerous for your opponent. The good news is, with the ruling on the FAQ, if you are in cover, or even if you're not, you get to choose what the best save is for you at any given time. So if you're getting inundated with bolter fire and you don't feel like, rolling on the shadow field, because the shadow field, if you roll a 1, it goes away at the end of the phase. Not immediately, at the end of the phase. That's the important thing to remember. So it lasts for the entire enemy shooting phase, even if you roll a 1 on it. However, at the end of that phase, it's gone, and that's not going to help you if you then get charged or something. But if you don't want to waste your shadow field trying to deflect bolter shots or something like that, something that's not going to double out your Archon, you can get a feel no pain against it or something like that, then if you're in cover, if you're in ruins or something like that, you can get a 4-up cover save and do it that way. Or you could take even your armor save if it's not AP 5. And then you would get your feel no pains too. This is useful for mitigating just sort of damage control on how much fire these guys are getting and how much they can survive. This isn't a strategy that I've used a whole lot. It's kind of a Hail Mary. It's something I'll do for fun. It's sort of like a deep striking special tasks force or something like that with the Trueborn in there. And if you're lucky, it'll pull off like some real miracles, because that's 7 strength 8 shots. That's going to double out a lot of HQs in the game. So it could get you a very easy Warlord kill, or take out a Night Titan in a single volley possibly. But as I said, that's going to be over 300 points in a single unit. Another possibility is these guys do have access to the splinter cannons, but honestly, I wouldn't buy them for the splinter cannons. First of all, you can only take 2, which means that for 30 points, you're basically spending, that's half the price of the Venom, really, and you could just take another Venom, and it's not going to occupy a precious elite slot. Also, you can take Shredders, but Shredders are even worse on the Kabalite Trueborn than they are on the Scourges, just because their armor save is that much worse, and I don't like Shredders. And finally, for close combat, I wouldn't recommend it. These guys only get 1 extra attack. They don't get a bonus to their weapon skill. They don't get a bonus to their strength. They're toughness 3s that are going to be eaten alive by just regular Space Marines. And even on turn 4 with Furious Charge, you're only going to be hitting at strength 4, and you lose that poison, which is really what sells the Dark Eldar warriors, or even the Trueborn. You're going to lose that strength 8 AP2. Really, these guys, they're at home, sitting in ruins, behind some sort of cover, in a boat, behind an HQ with an invul save. They need to be protected. They're not good on their own. If they're caught out in the open, they're just going to get eaten alive, and you're going to lose an entire unit, and you can lose an entire unit to just grenades. And as the last thing, is it worth it to take a Drakon? My answer to this is probably not. The best anti-armor that the Drakon is going to have access to is, for 5 points, Haywire Grenades, and for 15 points, a Blast Pistol. Now, yes, you could get the Webway Portal and Deep Strike in, and you could pay the extra 25 points to give the Drakon a Blast Pistol and position him in such a way that the 6 inches actually, works. So he has, at least for that first turn anyway, you have 8 Dark Light shots going into the same unit, but really, how often are you going to be within 6 inches of your target? Or 8 inches for the Haywire Grenade, for that matter. I mean, you give one to the Archon, but the Blaster is usually going to do just as well. Personally, I would not take the Dracon unless you are really afraid of being charged. And then I would give him an Agonizer. That's a 35 point total investment, though, that really it's not going to pay for itself. And of course, another option is you could just buy an Imperial Bastion or Aegis Defense Line, stick a couple of Dark Lances behind it, and just have fun with that. Personally, I wouldn't. There's much better things you could be spending your points on, except for maybe the defense line. That could have other uses, depending what you're using in your army for. But yeah, if you want, long range shooting of Dark Lances, I'd take a Ravager. If you want mass shooting of Dark Lances at short range with a high risk, high reward kind of a thing, bring an Archon with a Webway Portal and give him a Shadow Field for a nice invul save to try and keep the unit alive as long as possible. Well, that's really all I have to say about these guys, so until next time.